Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me on my webinar about intelligent capture using IBM Datacap Taskmaster. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Sean Patrick Scott. I'm an enterprise content management consultant and a business process management consultant, certified in Datacap as well as FileNet P8. I'm an information technology professional with over 20 years of consulting experience, most of which has been emphasis on content management and business process management. Most of my career has been focused in the FileNet solution area, and I'm proficient in P8 as a solution architect and an application engineer and developer. For more information, please visit my website at seanpatrickscott.com. Today I'd like to show you a little bit about Datacap. I'll give a brief overview, some of the key features of Datacap, as well as a quick demonstration, a question and answer session, and we'll finish it with a wrap-up. What is Datacap? It is an intelligent document capture system. It's able to take your electronic documents and your paper documents that are scanned in and extract important data from the documents themselves and use that to import into your external databases or accounting systems or claim systems. It's important to know that it is not an accounting system, it's not a workflow system, it's not a document management or storage system, but it's to streamline the document capture process and reduce or maybe even eliminate data entry. The main components of Taskmaster, of course, is Taskmaster Scan. It gives you the ability to scan in your paper documents so that you can automatically extract information from those documents. And that's done by using the background process called Rule Runner Server. That includes the recognition engines that extracts the data from the documents. There's also an application called Verify. That takes the data that we pulled out of the documents and displays it to the end user so that they can verify what the system did read, or possibly do additional database lookups on that data so that you can classify those documents. And it also comes with a very robust web-based reporting tool that shows you all the work in progress during your data capture process. Datacap also comes with 2 additional plugins, and that would be for fax input and email capture. The email capture will allow you to look at a particular email box, pull documents directly from it as attachments and emails, and process those as if they were scanned in documents. Some key features of Datacap Taskmaster are that it extracts machine print, hand print, checkboxes, and barcode data to reduce or eliminate manual data entry. It'll identify document types by a combination of pattern matching and data location, and it automatically learns these new document types on the fly. So when an end user might classify a document type and tell it where to find information on a document, the system will automatically remember that and store that in its library so that the next time that document comes across its system, it will automatically process that data. If you've worked with other recognition engines, you've probably seen where the IT group has to be involved to classify documents and to zone documents for processing. With Datacap, the end user actually does that process. It also uses advanced validations such as database lookups and math calculations to assure accurate data. So if you are able to extract, say, a claim number from a document, you can look up into your claim system to validate that you have the actual claim or verify the claim name that is on that claim document. So you have the ability to look into third-party databases as well as do math calculations, say on an invoice. You might be able to do some multiplication on line item information. It also enables the design and deployment of complex capture applications without expensive programming. Most of what I will demonstrate today was just basically simple configuration, and databases lookups were basically configuring a SQL statement. And as I mentioned, it provides enhanced reporting, including real-time dashboard monitoring and other management tools to show you where work is in the progress. Let's talk about the recognition engines. How does the system extract the data automatically? It uses 4 key technologies. The first one is OCR, which stands for Optical Character Recognition. That's the ability to read typewritten text automatically. And you can see on this form it could easily capture some of the text information in that text box there. It also uses optical mark recognition, which is OMR. Those are the little dots that you see down below in the survey form. It will automatically read that information and turn that into usable data. It also has an ICR engine, and that stands for Intelligent Character Recognition. That's the ability to read handwritten information. In this case, we would use OCR to read that this person's survey filled out 6 feet 0 inches and 220 pounds. Of course, it uses barcode technology so that you automatically be able to read barcode information and use that as data for downstream processing. I'd like to point out 2 key features within Datacap. First is click and key. If you can see in this example below, I have sort of 2 screens here. On the left-hand side, I have a data entry screen, and on the right-hand side, I have the image viewer. The end user has the ability to fill in the data entry screens by simply just clicking on the image area, and the system will automatically convert that information into text and deposit it in the data entry fields. So an end user technically doesn't have to key in any data, it's simply a click of a mouse. It also learns where the data is found and stores that information permanently so that the next time this document comes across the system, it will automatically know where to capture the vendor name for this instance. So it's a key important differentiator when looking at recognition engines. Of course, it comes with reporting. Here you can see a couple of screenshots from some of the reports that are available. There are over 30 reports that come out of the box, and that reports on how long it took for batches to be processed, how many an individual user had processed, number of batches outstanding, so on and so forth. There's real-time activity reports which give you a dashboard view of all the work in progress. Again, it's web-based, but it can also be customized using Microsoft Visual Studio so that if you wanted to add additional fields to these reports, say from an external system or perhaps from your FileNet system, you can easily configure that to update with that information. And again, there's a dashboard view for real-time reporting. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and demonstrate Datacap software. And what I'm going to do is the first example would be how I could automatically process invoices in an accounts payable application. Secondly, I'll show you how you can scan in an insurance claim file and automatically extract key information from those documents. So with that, here I have a sample of invoices. You can see they're typical invoices that a vendor would send you. And what we're going to go ahead and do is log in to the Datacap software. And when I log in, I get this screen, which is basically the user interface that every user will see when logging into the system. It's broken down into 2 windows. The top window is the operations window. That shows you all the functions that are available to the user. In this case, I'm a system administrator, so I can see all of the processes, including some of my hidden background processes and my export process, and I'll explain those in more detail. The second window you see down here below is the job monitor. This shows all of the documents that are outstanding or where in the process they are. You can see here these are in verify, this is in export. So this is basically your work in progress through the Datacap system. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is scan in those invoices by simply clicking on that. and it's now going ahead and scanning that stuff in electronically. Now the next process is a background process. Typically an end user will never see this process, but I'm going to demonstrate it for you so you can kind of see what goes on behind the scenes. Right now it is taking that batch of invoices, moving it to the server, and then doing a few background processes which include image enhancement and image cleanup. And what I mean by that is it will deskew the document automatically. So if the scanner maybe had tilted the image a little bit, it'll straighten it out. We also despeckle the document, so if there is background noise on the document with little dots, it'll automatically extract those out. And we do that so that we can increase our recognition rate. For invoices, we do line removal so that some of the information might be available next to a line. What we want to do is remove that line so that we're able to read that character more accurately. Now that background process has completed, what it also done is it's done some OCR on the information so that we're able to actually pull data from the document. So what I'd like to do in the next step of the process is what we call verify. This takes all the data and the image that we just processed in the background and delivers it to an end user to display what was extracted. So here you can see this is a typical view for an accounts payable application. On the right hand side you'll see an image viewer. On the left hand side is my data entry area or data verification screen. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is zoom this in so that you can actually see the invoice clearly. And what I have is a typical invoice from a vendor. On the left hand side you can see that the Datacap software has automatically extracted all of the header information of the invoice as well as all the line item information for the invoice. And it was able to do that from a combination of both OCRing the information as well as knowing zone areas for the line item information, and was able to extract all that information automatically. For my data entry area or the verification area, we deliver the data for the end user just to verify, and it's color coordinated. You can see the color boxes in teal means that we read it with 100% accuracy. Things in yellow are asking the end user to just verify the data to make sure it was correct. And that is based on a setting of confidence level. Our confidence level is at 99%, so that means anything with 98% confidence is lower, highlighted as yellow, deliver it to the end user for verification. In some cases, most likely you will lower that confidence level so that this document would never see an end user and would be automatically processed. So let me show you the verification screen. This is my data entry area. This is where I can simply just type in data to verify that the system captured that information accurately. In this case, I just cleared out the remittance zip code. I could type whatever I want in there, or I could simply clear it out. Or there's a great feature that I mentioned earlier of click and key. I can just simply go to the image viewer, click on that area. If you could see it automatically OCR'd that information and updated the snippet view of the data. And the snippet view is basically a cut and paste of that image area that I just clicked on, and we deliver that to the verify user so that they can easily find the information that we want verified. In this case, the zip code is displayed directly above the data entry area so that the data entry or verification person does not need to search for that information. It knows exactly where it is. We also have the ability, if I were to clear this out, to do a lookup. If I wanted to look up the vendor, let's say, we have the ability to call out to our database, our vendor master table, to select on that vendor, and it will update the remittance zip code automatically, as well as pull the vendor number from our vendor master table. Because as you know, most vendors probably won't publish your internal vendor number on their invoices. So we're able to do database lookups, pull information both in the background process as well as during the verification screen. We have the ability to classify invoice types as well as capture all the header information. You can see here It captured invoice date, number, tax, invoice total, purchase order number, all with 100% accuracy. We're able to capture line item information as well because we've actually processed this vendor in the past and we know where that information is contained. So you can see here I'm going to go ahead and step through each line item, and as I do, you can see the highlighted line is highlighted in the image viewer. So that I can easily verify the data, look at the data, and in this case it's asking me to verify this one as a 1 and this one as a 1. I know that because it's highlighted in red. Because of this font, it appears that it could be a 1 or a 7. Most likely, and it is, it did read it with 100% accuracy as a 1. So most likely I would lower my threshold in the future so that the 1 isn't confused with the 7 on this vendor. So I've read this with 100% accuracy. I'm going to go ahead and process this image and move to the next one. Here's another invoice that we processed in the past, and it was able to extract all the information with 100% accuracy, just asking me to verify that the invoice number is correct, and I can easily see that it did read it with 100% accuracy. I have a button here which will show you what I mean by line removal. This was the original invoice that was scanned in, and here's what we do to increase data recognition. We remove all those lines in case any of the data values we're trying to extract are too close to that line. We want to remove it automatically. So the system does that in the background process without you even knowing. So now this invoice is complete. I'm going to go ahead and process this one. Now you can see here for this invoice, we have a yellow field that's just asking me to verify that that's a hyphen, and that is correct. And in this case, it's red. And what I mean by red is that's the system telling me that it did not pass data validation. We do field validation to make sure things, certain fields are certain valid information. For instance, invoice date, we validate that this is an actual valid date. But this is a leap day, but 2009 was not a leap year. So I'm going to go ahead and correct that and put it to this year. Even though it read it accurately, it's just not a valid date, so we're going to go ahead and change that. And then here you can see that it did read all of that information. I can also quickly look at the line item details by clicking the View Details button. You can see here it's displaying all the line items in one screen so that I can quickly see that the information read matches what's on the invoice. Not only that, we also do mathematical calculations. We actually check the quantity and the price to make sure that it equals the line total. If it doesn't, we'll highlight it in red. We also validate that all the line totals match the invoice total plus shipping plus the tax. If that did not match up, this would all be highlighted in red, asking a verification person to verify this data. So in this case, this invoice still would have been delivered to an end user to clean out this date, but we purposely put this date in there so that you can see how it does field validation as well as data validation. So I'm going to go ahead and process this invoice. Now here's a new invoice from a vendor that we haven't seen before. They are in our vendor master table, but we've never processed this invoice. This is the first invoice we're getting from them. And it's a 2-page invoice, as you can see. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is look up this vendor in our vendor master table to get some information on that vendor. And it brings back 1. So now I've brought back automatically the vendor number, the remittance zip code based on our vendor master table. So I was able to look that up fairly easily. But if you notice, the system automatically pulled the invoice date, invoice number, invoice total, and shipping amount. Even though some of that information is found on the second page, we use OCR technology to look for key labels in the accounting system, like invoice total or invoice amount or total due will actually deliver this value to us. So you can see here there was no data entry used to grab this information. It was all pulled from the system automatically. But what it could not do was line item information. So what I'm going to do is teach the system where the line item information is. Now, just as an end user, it's as simply as clicking on the data or the data entry area and then clicking on the invoice area in the image viewer. And if you notice, I just clicked on this string and it automatically populated my item ID data entry area and also took an area of the zone that I clicked on so that the next time this comes in, the item ID will be populated automatically. And the same thing with quantity. I'm just going to click on the image viewer and it's going to capture that information automatically. Same thing with the description. As you see, I click on the area, it automatically OCRs it and also displays the zone area that I'm capturing. I'm also going to capture price and line total. So now I've told the system where the first line is. I have a button called Find Details. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and if you see, it's going to query and find all of the lines. It just found all 23 lines, including the lines on the second page. Again, if I want to view that information, I can quickly see the 23 lines it just captured without doing absolutely any data entry. I was able to process this invoice, capture all of the information by simply clicking on the image viewer and using the OCR technology to capture the header information. Now, if I want to go ahead and look at this information, I can do that as well, all the way through to the second page if I wanted to. But it did capture all 23 line items, and we did data validation to make sure that the quantity and the price equals the line total, as well as the summation of the 23 line totals equals the invoice total and the shipping. They're currently in red right now because originally we had 0 line items and it didn't match. So I'm going to go ahead and validate that data. And if you can see, validation is passed and my fields have turned to the teal color, saying that it's completely accurate and ready to be processed. So I'm going to go ahead and process this invoice. And there, that is the final invoice in my batch. So you can see how it's a very powerful application that's available to automatically extract invoice information and how that can streamline your accounts payable process. Now that's processing an invoice. Let's say you have a claim file, and a claim file can have 20, 30 different document types in it. How could the system know where to capture all that information, and how could it do it automatically? Well, there's an application that's available that will allow us to do that. I've scanned in maybe a half dozen of claim documents from my claim file. I've scanned them in. They're all in one batch. I'm going to go ahead and process that in my verification screen. You can see here this verification screen looks very similar to the one we did for accounts payable. In this case, it's an insurance document, and it's asking the verification user to classify the document. I know that this is a correspondence document, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. Now this document is new to our system. We haven't seen it before, so I had to classify it. But I only have to classify it once. The next time a correspondence comes from UInsure, I'll be able to automatically extract this information the next time it comes in, because the end user will highlight the areas where we're capturing that information, and we'll store it in our library so that the next time it comes in, it'll know where to look. So I'm going to go ahead and click on claim number. Click on the date mailed. You can see it's automatically extracting the information just from me clicking it. Again, I just captured all that information by just clicking on the image viewer. I classified it as correspondence. I'm going to process this, and it's automatically going to store that as what we call a fingerprint in our library. So the next time that image or that type of document comes up from UInsure, it'll automatically be processed. Now here's a document that's an overdue premium notice. If you could see, we've already processed one of these forms in the past, and the system has remembered it and pulled all the information automatically. It's classified it as a premium notice. It automatically took the policy number from the form as well as the policy date from the form, and it did that automatically behind the scenes. So now I'm going to go ahead and save that as the policy number and policy date. So you can see for premium notice, those are the only two fields we need to process. For the correspondence, we needed 3 different fields for that. And I'm going to go ahead and process my premium notice. Now this brings up, again, another correspondence document. This is similar to one that we've already extracted through the OCR process. We look for key tags like claim number and date mailed and who it's from. So you can see we're automatically picking up that information from the OCR process, and that's all the information we need to process a correspondence document. Now this is a little more complex. This is an explanation of benefits form, but it's a common form that we've seen in the past, and we're able to process it automatically because we've already created a fingerprint for this document. But you can see we pulled different fields for this type of document. For this we needed a claim number, and what's new here is a patient and accident date. And we were able to pull that information automatically by looking at these key tags like accident date and patient. And I can change those terms if I'm getting EOBs from different providers. I can actually build a library of strings that I look for, like patient name or patient colon or patient ID, things like that. We can actually look for those strings and pull information directly from the right, left, above it, or below it. So the system is very powerful to automatically classify documents as well as data. Here you can see it's an ISO claim search, and for that we need to capture claim number and social security number and accident date. In this case it did not pass validation on social security number because our claim system requires a hyphen as part of the social security number. So I'm going to go ahead and validate that to make sure it's okay, and it did pass. It is now a valid social security number in our system, and we're able to process this claim or insurance claim search. And again, here is a document. We've actually pulled the dollar amount, but we don't want to pass the dollar into our claim system. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that dollar sign out and process this document automatically. Now here's a situation where we found a document that is from a third party, and this was created before the claim was created. But we do have an IO number and we do have the insured name. So I'm able to look up in our claim system by clicking this button, and I'll pull back the claim number based on these values. So again, I have the ability to do database lookup for, say, claim number. And again, it extracted different information for this type of document, claim form. We capture the IO number and the insured name. So I'm going to go ahead and process this document. Again, here's a subrogation form. All different types of data fields that we want. The deductible and the amount is important with subrogation, so we're actually extracting that information. So you can see if you happen to use FileNet capture in the past, you've had to separate your documents before scanning by document type. In this case, we're just taking the entire claim file, and the Datacap software will automatically classify the documents and adjust which document properties we want to capture, and it'll remember exactly where in the document that we're capturing that information. So it's very powerful. I do not have to do any data entry. Everything is basically extracted automatically. I do have the ability to overwrite data if I wanted to, or I can simply just click and key on fields. If I wanted to capture Ontario, I just simply click on it and it changes it automatically. So you can see it's very powerful. No data entry, no data keying. I was able to extract all that information. Again, here's a correspondence document, extracted claim number, date mailed, and who it was from, so that when we store this, say, in our FileNet system or SharePoint system, we have all the metadata available. In most cases, a lot of this information wouldn't even be brought to an end user because it was read with a 100% accuracy. So again, if you were using a FileNet capture system, there's no need to index some of this information. The system will automatically do it and store it in FileNet for you. So that's our last document in the insurance batch. And that concludes the demo. I hope that you found it interesting. So after we extract all that information during the document processing portion, what do we do with the data? We have the ability to bundle up the data and either automatically export it to a database through a SQL call, or we could put it in a flat file if you're able to read it, say through an EDI interchange, Or we could put it in an XML file that will have smart tags on it so that you're able to process it in multiple different systems if required. Or you could simply export it to a spreadsheet if you just want to view the information or store it after it's been put into, say, the FileNet repository. So there's a lot of flexibility with the system with the data that you extract. Again, my name is Sean Patrick Scott. I'm an independent consultant, and I do have Datacap consulting services available. I have a proven project methodology that reduces risk and speed when deploying Datacap, and that helps because we actually are able to implement some of the rules and custom logic that I have built in to some of the applications that go across multiple different type of applications that many clients will use. I have a proven approach to implement Datacap rapidly, especially in a FileNet environment, because I'm very familiar with both environments. And all of this is applicable to accounts payable, accounts receivable, human resources, and of course high volume form processing that you find in, say, insurance claim processing. Now I'd like to turn it over for question and answers. And I do have a couple of questions that have come in already. The first question is, how long does it take to create a Datacap application? That really varies based on the document type, the amount of information you actually need to extract, as well as how much validations you're doing on those fields. So if you needed to do a lot of database lookup, that would take more time than if you didn't do any of the data validation. And also, if you're processing an insurance claim form, you might be capturing 100 fields, where for some correspondence document types, you may only be pulling a couple of fields. So it does vary depending upon the number of document types that you need to process and how much information that you're pulling from that. The second question I have here is, what databases does it support? Well, for data validation, where you want to validate, like, say, a claim number as a valid claim number, it supports any ODBC compliant database. That would be things like Microsoft SQL or Oracle or DB2. But if you were to deploy Datacap in your environment, it does require some databases to remember those fingerprints and the area locations. That supports two databases, Microsoft SQL and Oracle. And the final question I have here is, how does the integration with FileNet actually occur? That's a very good question. Datacap actually bundles the client-side APIs that are available for FileNet P8 and FileNet Image Services. So we actually have Datacap actions that we can configure to say, log on to FileNet, migrate to this folder, or create a folder, store the document in this repository, and here is the metadata or document properties associated with this document type. That's all the questions I have. I thank you for joining me on my webinar. Again, you can see how powerful Datacap actually is and how you can streamline your document capture process and automate many of the data entry processes that are in your organization. Again, thank you very much for joining me. If you'd like more information, you can email me at info@seanpatrickscott.com, or please visit my website, seanpatrickscott.com. Thank you.